261. The Traveller and Chance. A man was worn out after a long journey, so he threw himself down beside a well and went to sleep. He would certainly have fallen in, but chance appeared and woke him, saying, "Hey, friend, if you had fallen down the well, you wouldn't have blamed your own foolishness, you would have blamed me." Thus, plenty of people who meet with misfortune through their own fault blame it on the gods. 262. The Asses appealing to Zeus. One day the asses tired of suffering and carrying heavy burdens, and they sent some representatives to Zeus, asking him to put a limit on their workload. Wanting to show them that this was impossible, Zeus told them that they would be delivered from their misery only when they could make a river from their piss. The asses took this reply seriously, and, from that day until now, whenever they see ass piss anywhere, they stop in their tracks to piss too. This fable shows that one can do nothing to change one's destiny. 263. The Ass bought in the market. A man who intended to buy an ass took it on trial and led it to the manger to mix with his others, but the ass, turning its back on the others, went and stood beside the laziest and fattest of the lot. As it stood there and did nothing, the man put a halter on it and led it back to its owner. The owner asked the man if he had given it a fair trial, and he replied, "I don't need any further trial. I am certain of what he's like because of the companion he chose from among the lot." This fable shows that people judge us by the company we keep. 264. The Wild Ass and the Domestic Ass. A wild ass which saw a domestic ass grazing in plenty of sunshine went up to it to compliment it on its plumpness and on the pasture which it enjoyed. But moments later he saw it loaded with a burden and followed by the ass driver, who hit it with a club. So he called out to it, "Oh, I don't congratulate you any more, for I can see that you pay a high price to enjoy your abundance." Thus, there is nothing to envy in advantage which is accompanied by danger and suffering. 265. The Ass carrying salt. An ass with a load of salt was crossing a stream. He slipped and fell into the water. Then the salt dissolved, and when he got up his load was lighter than before, so he was delighted. Another time, when he arrived at the bank of a stream with a load of sponges, he thought that if he fell into the water again, when he got up the load would be lighter. So he slipped on purpose. But, of course, the sponges swelled up with the water, and the ass was unable to get up again, so he drowned and perished. Thus it is sometimes that people don't suspect that it is their own tricks which land them in disaster. 266. The Ass carrying a statue of a god. An ass who was carrying a statue of a god on its back was being led into town by a man. As the passers-by prostrated themselves in front of the statue, the ass imagined that it was he to whom they were making obeisance, and, in his pride, he started to bray and refused to go any further. The ass driver, guessing his thoughts, beat him with his club and said, "Poor brayless wretch, that really would be the limit, to see an ass adored by men." This fable shows that people who take an empty pride in the advantages of others become a laughing stock to those who know them. 267. The Ass clothed in the skin of a lion and the fox. An ass who had clothed himself in the skin of a lion went about the countryside frightening all the animals. He encountered a fox and tried to frighten him also, but the fox, who had heard his voice before, said to him, "You'd have scared me too, there's no doubt about it, if I hadn't heard you bray." Thus, uneducated people who put on airs betray themselves by their longing to speak. 268. The Ass pronouncing the horse happy. The ass discovered that the horse had plenty to eat and was well groomed, while he himself didn't even have enough litter, even though he was so willing to work. But there came a time of war. The horse had to carry a horseman armed from head to foot, who urged him in every direction and even forced him into the midst of the enemy, where the horse was pierced with blows and slaughtered. On realizing this, the ass changed his mind and pitied the horse. This fable shows that you shouldn't envy leaders or the rich, but think of the dangers to which they are exposed and resign yourself to poverty. 269. The Ass, the Cock, and the Lion. One day an ass and a cockerel were feeding together when a lion attacked the ass. The cockerel let out a loud crow and the lion fled, for lions are afraid of the sound of a cock crowing. The ass, imagining that the lion was fleeing because of him, did not hesitate to rush after him. When he had pursued the lion for about the distance where a cock's crow could no longer be heard, the lion turned round and devoured him. As he lay dying, the ass brayed, "What an unfortunate and stupid fellow I am! Why did I, who was not born to warlike parents, set out to fight?" This fable shows that the enemy is often portrayed as of no consequence, but when we attack him, he destroys us. 270. The Ass, the Fox, and the Lion. An ass and a fox made a pact to hunt together, and they sallied forth. But a lion appeared in their path. Hoping to save himself from this danger, the fox approached the lion and offered to entrap the ass on the lion's behalf. The lion promised that if the fox did this, he would let him go free. So the fox led the ass towards a hunting pit, into which he fell and was trapped. As soon as he saw that the ass was secured, the lion ate the fox, saving the ass for later. Similarly, those who betray their colleagues are often unknowingly destroyed along with their victims. 271. The Ass and the Frogs. An ass carrying a load of wood was crossing a bog one day. He slipped and fell. Not able to get up again, he began to groan and wail. The frogs in the bog, who heard all this moaning, said to him, "What sort of noise would you make if you had been living here for as long as we have, you who have only fallen in for a moment?" This fable could apply to an effeminate man who becomes impatient and complains about the slightest discomforts, while the rest of us put up with far worse things the whole time. 272. The Ass and the Mule carrying the same heavy loads. An ass and a mule were trudging along the road together. The ass noticed that their loads were the same and became indignant. He complained that the mule should carry more than him, for he judged him capable of carrying twice as much as himself. But when they had gone a little further, the ass driver noticed that the ass couldn't go on, and so he removed a part of his load and transferred it onto the mule. When they had gone a bit further, seeing that the ass was still exhausted, he took off a bit more of his load. Finally, removing the rest of it, he put it all on the mule's back. Then the mule glanced over to his comrade and said to him, "Well, my friend, don't you think it would be fair if I now got twice as much to eat?" So it is with us. It is not just at the start, but at the finish that we should judge each other's condition. 273. The Ass and the Gardener. An ass worked for a gardener. As he worked hard and didn't get much to eat, he begged Zeus to rescue him from the gardener and find him another master. Zeus answered his prayer and he was sold to a potter. But he again became discontented because he was loaded up even more and was made to carry clay and pottery. So he asked once more to change his master and was sold to a tanner. Thus he fell into the hands of an even worse master. Upon seeing the sort of work his master did, he sighed to himself, "Alas, how unlucky I am! I would have been better off staying with my previous masters, for this one, from what I can see, will tan my hide." This fable shows that servants should never regret their first masters until they have approved the next. 274. The Ass, the Raven, and the Wolf. An ass who had a sore on his back was grazing in a meadow. A raven landed, perched on the ass's back, and started pecking at the sore. The ass, believing it was the sore that caused him such pain, began to bray and buck. The ass driver, who saw this from some distance away, burst out laughing. A wolf who was passing by saw this and said to himself, "How unfortunate we are! It's bad enough that when we are seen we are driven off, but when one of those comes near them, they just laugh at it." This fable shows that mischievous people are recognized for what they are at first sight. 275. The Ass and the Lapdog, or the Dog and its Master. There was a man who owned a Maltese lapdog and an ass. He was always playing with the dog. When he dined out, he would bring back tidbits and throw them to the dog when it rushed up, wagging its tail. The ass was jealous of this, and one day trotted up and started frisking around his master. But this resulted in the man getting a kick on the foot, and he grew very angry. So he drove the ass with a stick back into its manger, where he tied it up. This fable shows that we are not all made to do the same things. 276. The Ass and the Dog travelling together. An ass and a dog were taking the same route when they found a sealed document on the ground. The ass picked it up, broke the seal, opened it, read it aloud, and the dog listened. It was all about fodder, that is to say, hay, barley, and straw. The dog became bored by this recital from the ass and said, "Skip a few lines, friend. Maybe you'll come across something in there about meat and bones." The ass scanned the rest of the document and found nothing that was of interest to the dog, who then spoke up again. "Throw the paper away. It's completely useless." 277. The Ass and the Ass Driver. An ass who was being driven by an ass driver strayed off the main path after a while and started to cross some steep slopes. When he fell over a precipice, the ass driver, seizing the ass by the tail, tried to pull him back up. But as the ass struggled frantically upside down, the ass driver let go and said, "I give up, but you win the wrong victory." This fable applies to quarrelsome people. 278. The Ass and the Cicadas. Hearing some cicadas sing, an ass was charmed by their harmony and envied them their talent. "What do you eat," he asked them, "that gives you such a beautiful song?" "The dew," they replied. From then on, the ass waited for the dew and eventually starved to death. So, when we long for things which are not in our nature, not only will we never be satisfied, but we will bring upon ourselves even more misfortune. 279. The Ass who was taken for a Lion. An ass, clothed in the skin of a lion, passed himself off in the eyes of everyone as a lion and made everyone flee from him, both men and animals. But the wind came along and blew off the lion's skin, leaving him naked and exposed. Everyone then fell upon him when they saw this and beat him with sticks and clubs. Be poor and ordinary. Don't have pretensions to wealth, or you will be exposed to ridicule and danger, for we cannot adapt ourselves to that which is alien to us. 280. The Ass eating the Jerusalem thorn and the fox. An ass was eating the prickly head of a Jerusalem thorn. A fox saw him doing this and addressed him with these mocking words, "I marvel that with such a loose and soft tongue you can chew so happily on something so hard." This fable addresses itself to those whose tongues utter hard and dangerous resolutions.